So, Pete, how are the puppies doing?
They're doing all right. They're 3 weeks old now.
Excellent. Have you eaten any of them yet?
No, not yet. I like to wait until they got a bit more fat on them before I do that. But, the mum's going out for walks again, which is quite nice, and going out with the dad for little walks. I threw a ball for the dad the other day. I know it's a bit excessive, but he looks great in a tuxedo. You like that one?
Normal standards have been resumed.
Yeah, I can't keep up the cherries every week.
No, absolutely not. Well, we're not watching an Apple event tonight, Pete, and I'm quite happy about that because I'm absolutely shattered. So staying up all night watching Apple events and then doing a live cast is not high on my list of things I wanted to do today.
You look very tired.
Thanks for that.
Very drained.
I really appreciate that.
Peaky, some
Thank
might say.
Thank you. It's so kind.
Yeah, that's okay.
So yeah, no Apple event has happened. Potentially
Next week.
It might happen next week. Invitations might go out, and when it does, we'll do a live cast. But frankly, I'm getting a bit tired of talking about this Apple event. Honestly, if Apple don't pull their finger out and do something soon, people are just going to go and buy PCs.
Well, Intel might do an event, and someone might show up to it.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So,
well, thanks for joining us for episode 32 of season 2 of the Constant Geekery podcast.
yeah, and I think it is a year since we've been doing this now.
Is it? Oh, we ought to do something special then. What have you got planned?
This is it.
Oh, okay.
Just talking to you. Yeah, thanks for all your support, everyone, over the last year, and your continued support.
It's been good. Picked
really
up a few subscribers over the last week, and I think that's mainly because we were talking about M1X, and any video to do with that is going to do a lot better than a video that's not about that. Our main topic this week is Intel trolling Apple again.
Attempting to troll Apple again.
Before we do that, we need to just cover the news. I've only got one story this week.
Okay, hit me with it.
What, literally?
No.
Okay. USB-C in an iPhone. We've been talking about this. You think it's hard work because it'll be too small.
Yeah.
But apparently somebody has done it. So a long-time subscriber of the channel, Carlos Storms, has sent this to me, and it was a tweet from Apple Insider, and they'd written an article about this robotics engineer called Ken Pillanell. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. And what he's done is installed a USB-C port into an iPhone 10, or iPhone X if you prefer, replacing the Lightning port. What do you think about that?
I think that's a superb piece of engineering.
It is a superb piece of engineering, if indeed it is all true. Apparently, he had to reverse engineer Apple's C94 connector.
That's what I would have done.
I like a good C94 connector.
It's one of my favourites.
Of all the connectors.
Well, there's obviously the C95.
Okay, of all the connectors between, say, C93 and C95, I imagine the C94 is probably right up there.
0.1 or 0.2. Yeah.
He's done a short on YouTube, and perhaps we can put the link to that in the description so you can take a look after you've watched the podcast on YouTube.
Because I am watching, and I will know if you go.
It's youtube.com/The Constant Geekery Podcast, or, of course, if you're listening on your favourite podcasting platform of choice, welcome. And if you are on YouTube, by the way, just do us a favour and hit that subscribe button. We'll wait. Have you done it? Have you, though?
Have you pinged the bell?
You need to ping the bell, otherwise apparently YouTube just will refuse to notify you of any of our content. Yeah, interesting story. And apparently he had to make a PCB to do it, and it was a little bit tricky to get it in, but he says it's charging and doing data transfer.
Oh, okay. So, because that was going to be my question, you didn't just get a USB C94 connector, line it up on the lightning thing, and then just hit it with a big hammer.
No, that's what you would have done, Pete. But this is a robotics engineer.
Okay, as opposed to just a regular engineer.
Some would say engineer, some would say klutz. Let's get on to our main topic. So Intel on their YouTube channel has published a very entertaining video called Breaking the Spell.
It is. I do wonder if it's comedy. I think they've done it for, maybe they're branching out into comedy, seeing as they can't seem to do semiconductors.
I don't know. What I will say about this before we get started, of course, this isn't the first time that Intel is targeting Apple, and I don't really understand why they feel the need to do this. And if you can hear motorbikes racing in the background, that's because there is a road just over there.
And motorbikes are racing in the background on it, it would appear.
There does appear to be a lot of road noise today. Intel has done this in the past. What I would say is if your product is absolutely brilliant, then you'll shout about your product. If you know that your product is not as good as it should be, then you'll attack the competition.
Yeah.
What is Intel doing?
The latter. They're attacking the competition.
And it's not a good look, is it?
Well, I don't know about you. If I was in Apple's marketing department, and I think there's at least 2 of them in that department, you'd be, I mean, this is great, isn't it?
I think they'd be quite happy about it.
Yeah, it feels like desperation and clutching at straws.
Well, let's just look at the stats on YouTube. So you've got 276,000 views. I mean, bear in mind this is a video from Intel, one of the largest companies in the world, and it's getting 276,000 views. I mean, imagine if Apple were to do the same thing, they would have a lot more views. I don't know what that says. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that seems like a low view count to me. Out of that, 4,500 people have liked the video, and 10,000 people have disliked it. So that's, what is that? An interaction rate of just over 50? No, hang on. What am I saying? Just over 5%. Typically, if I do a video on my main channel, youtube.com/constantgeekery, I get about 10 to 15% dislike, people who actually have engaged with the video.
Yeah.
And typically 95% plus like ratio. So to have 10,000 people dislike versus 4,500 people like, I wouldn't have said it's a spectacular success, would you?
No, I wouldn't have done. And you look at some of their other videos there. There's one which actually I would like to watch at some point. I like read videos from Sand to Silicon, the making of a microchip. That's got 4.8 million views. Now that was a year ago, to be fair, but 4.8 million shows what is possible for this channel.
Yeah, and they've got over 500,000 subscribers as well. So here's the proposition for the video, in case you haven't seen it. So it's Apple fans, as described by Intel.
Shall we deploy the air quotes?
Sorry, air quotes are being deployed. Apple fans. I've got to say that they're an interesting type of person. Maybe we'll come back to that in a moment. These Apple fans believe that they've gone to this swish-looking office building to be shown some new Apple designs and so that their opinion can be sought on these designs. And
which,
then
of course, first of all, can I just say that proposition?
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting your flow, but we all know that Apple do their beta testing after the product's launched. So there's no way this would happen if you knew anything about Apple. It's just say, well, why isn't this out yet? Then I give you my opinion, surely.
And my money.
Yeah.
It's like an abusive relationship, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then we get to the big reveal where, these are all PCs with Intel. That's the proposition for the video. You already know where this is going, even if you haven't watched it, I'm sure. Here are the points that get brought up in the video. So point 1 is upgradability. So how would you like to upgrade your... And they're shown sort of schematics and machines.
A laptop that you can upgrade things in.
Yeah.
And it's well received by the Apple fans.
It is. And let's be clear here. I think most Apple fans would absolutely
well receive
love upgradability. This is a valid point. And this is going to be a little bit of a theme going through here. Intel have picked the right points to talk about, with one exception. But it's the execution. That's the issue. Yeah. Upgradability, I mean, that we'd love to see that, wouldn't we, on Apple devices?
I think that's always been one of our biggest bugbears is, when people ask us for our advice on the channel about, should I go for the more RAM? Should I go for the more storage? We're always saying get more than you think you need, because once you bought it, you're stuck with it to your next machine. You can't upgrade it, well, unless you go external, but you can't do that for RAM. So, yeah, it is a valid point.
I mean, upgradability on its own is an interesting topic anyway. I'll just share this with you because I had someone comment on the channel, one of my older videos, and the guy was asking for my opinion on an upgrade to his CPU and his graphics card on his PC so that he could do particular tasks. So he was proposing a particular CPU, and I said that's going to be a significant upgrade. That's going to really, that'd be great. But also for the workload you're talking about, you need a solid GPU. And he came back with what he had, and it's not really enough. So next thing is that he's then wanting to go and buy that CPU, but he can't just put that onto his motherboard because his motherboard doesn't have the right chipset, even though there's only a couple of generations between the CPUs. You see, upgradability only goes so far anyway. You know, if you've got a PC and you want to change your CPU, generally by the time you get to the point where you want to change your CPU, the generations of chipsets have moved on.
It's not just the CPU you're talking about.
No, you've got to change the motherboard as well. And if you're changing the motherboard, well, you're going to want faster RAM, so you'll change that too. So basically it ends up being like triggers bream, which is an expression that people in the UK will understand.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about upgradability, really what you want is the ability to add a bit more RAM and to change your SSD.
Yeah.
If you had those two things, I think we'd be very happy with that.
I think so. Yeah, it's a bit of a white elephant otherwise, or no, that's not the right term, is it? But it's a bit of misdirection there because for the reasons you've just said. What I also thought was interesting is when they do the big reveal at the end, they go, these are Intel machines. They've been talking about upgradability. And then they're showing a room full of convertibles and two-in-ones and things that aren't upgradable because they're so small and thin. They've got a chassis similar to an Apple machine, which is why they're possibly able to pass off these unbranded things. I think one of them was a Lenovo as potentially a new Apple devices because they have got that chassis, which, to be fair to Apple, does, and Intel users, Lenovo and people like that, makes it hard to make them upgradable because everything's soldered onto the boards.
Yeah, so this is not a uniquely Apple thing at all. It's something that fanboys, and I just want to be clear, we're not trying to stand on either side of the argument here. We're just presenting the piece. I personally use a PC as my daily driver with an Intel chip in it, so we're not Apple fanboys here. I think it's this whole upgradability thing is something that's pervasive in the whole industry. Microsoft are doing it with their stuff. Lots of companies are doing it. If you've got these, like you're saying, these ultra thin,
you have to just. This is nothing new. I am an electronics engineer by trade. Many moons ago, but back when I was an apprentice in the sort of early 90s, surface mount components were a big thing back then in the right areas. Everything was as small and as thin as you could make it because space has numerous disadvantages. So this is nothing new. If you want something that's super thin, then you're not going to find it very easy to upgrade it.
No. So it's an interesting argument. I think there is scope to have some measure of upgradability. I think M1 makes this more difficult. So if you're a Mac user, with M1, the SSD controller is within the M1 chip. So it's not like you could just pop in an M2. I'm sure Apple could make it that way, but they haven't. And also the memory is on package with the M1 because it's got that unified access. That doesn't mean that Apple couldn't provide additional RAM slots that could be used for caching and swapping and other things, but they're not doing that. They're going for as thin and light as possible with the longest possible battery life when it comes to a laptop. And honestly, things have not moved on. They're not moving on at a massive pace. I mean, M1 is the biggest change, I would say. If you've got a 3-year-old laptop, you'll still be able to do everything you can do on a modern laptop.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Well, no, Siri, I couldn't. So bog off. Yeah.
Introducing Siri on the Constant Geekery podcast.
I haven't even got it switched on. That's the thing. It just randomly pops up during various different times of the day. Anyway, I think we made the point on upgradability. What was point number 2 that Intel trotted out?
Game more on your laptop.
Game more on your laptop.
Which is, I must admit, every day, because my daily drive is a MacBook Pro 16. Every day I'm just thinking, do you know what? Today has not been complete because I can't do a bit of Call of Duty on my laptop.
In fairness, though, you're not a Call of Duty fan.
I don't play it. Haven't even got it. I don't really play that sort of game.
So somebody who's really into top tier games, are they likely to be buying a Mac anyway?
Well, I know someone who's into top tier games because he works in our agency, and for his professional creative work, guess what he uses?
Is it a Mac?
It is a Mac, yeah. And that would be his choice. Okay, that's not just enforced on him. But for his gaming, guess what he uses?
Is it a PC?
It is, yeah. Now, I know there's a lot of people that say, but there's lots of people out there that can't afford 2 machines, and that is a valid argument. But in that case, you choose the one that's going to suit most of your needs. And it's not true that you can't game on a Mac. It's just that you can't pay all the AAA titles, which tend to have other expensive things attached to them anyway, like graphics cards that you can't get.
That's also not entirely true either, because some AAA titles do go on to Mac. Mac is not short of games. I think last time I looked on Steam, Tom will correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's best part of 10,000. I'm sure that there's a huge number of games available for the Mac. And that doesn't even include the stuff you can go and get on the App Store. So, yeah, you may not be able to get the specific top-tier AAA title of your choice on your Mac, but you wouldn't want it anyway because it's not going to run without a serious graphics card in. And the kind of laptops, again, that they're showing people are not going to play those titles either.
No.
In fact, a lot of them, if you've got the Intel 11th gen processors inside with only the Xe graphics and no discrete graphics card, that is slower than the M1.
Yeah.
So the M1 can run the identical game through Rosetta emulation at the same speed as Intel laptops with 11th gen chips. And before all the fanboys cry foul on this, I have a gaming laptop with an 1165 G7 chip in it, and I have an M1. So I know what I'm talking about. It is not as fast. And unless you're going out to buy a big, chunky gaming laptop, and you know what we're talking about, then you're not going to be able to play the titles that are not available on the Mac.
No.
Otherwise, if the title's available on the Mac, then the Mac can run it. It's such a pathetic argument, and I get tired of Intel trotting this one out, the gaming argument.
Yeah.
Particularly when their integrated graphics are running behind Apple,
Yeah, it's misdirection, and again, it smacks of desperation, and as we said, they've got a point in some areas, but it's the way they're doing it.
The third thing they brought out is another old classic, and that is the touchscreen.
Or specifically the 2 touchscreens, not just one, but 2 touchscreens.
Yeah, this laptop that has a touchscreen for a keyboard instead. Which sounds like what are you doing, Pete?
I'm seeing how long it is before I get tired of using this laptop-y type. Yeah, I'm tired. It's rubbish. In my opinion.
Well, the laptop that I just mentioned does indeed have a touchscreen. I don't think I've ever touched it. Tom, you have the exact same laptop. Have you ever touched your screen? Despite the fact it's a touchscreen, he's shaking his head. No. I don't think touchscreen is a massive thing. The 2 touchscreen things as well, replacing your keyboard with a touchscreen, that's not going to work. You need a bit of tactile resistance on you.
Well, it's very interesting. I think the very fact that the pseudo touchscreen of the touch bar on MacBook Pros is going tells you Apple kind of have listened to their customers, and they're not supporting it's going. So what does that tell you about it?
I do think, though, that there are people out there who love a touchscreen. So I'm just, we're coming at it from our point of view. I think a lot of people who buy laptops don't use the touchscreens. But there is also a demographic of people who do. And so it's completely true then that if they buy a Mac laptop, they lose that functionality, and it might be really important functionality for them.
True.
So I don't see why Apple can't provide a touchscreen on their MacBook. If people want to use it, they can use it, and if you don't want to use your touchscreen, well, you don't have to. And
Yeah.
there we go. It's I think it's a bit of a non-argument in.
I tell you what, the other thing that I absolutely detest, I don't particularly like it on my iPad, but I detest it even more on my laptop, is fingerprints on the screen.
Yeah,
At least with the iPad, you can give it it's sturdy enough that you can get them off. But with a laptop, even though say a MacBook Pro is well built, I don't feel like I want to be delicate with the screen. It's not built for that.
No, I'll tell you what else isn't built for it as well, and that is Mac OS. Windows is built to be used in that way with a touchscreen, but Mac OS isn't.
No.
So what's the point in having a touchscreen on a Mac laptop? It's pointless, and this is the argument that is completely missing, of course, from any of these trolling things. That and the performance argument. Those Intel conveniently forget those two things: which operating system you're going to use, which is a lot of people will talk about the hardware, forget that the software is half of the deal. It's at least half of the deal. You don't use the hardware without the software. So if the software doesn't work for you, if your preference is Windows, then you need to go with buying a Mac makes no sense regardless of everything else.
Correct.
If you need to use Mac OS, there's no point in going and buying a Windows PC. Yeah. So, and it's not our place to argue which one's better, because everyone has their own opinion on that.
Which one's better is that's only an answer you can give yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the same with phones. You say, oh yeah, but the Samsung something has a better camera or better this than an iPhone or the equivalent iPhone. Well, it may do, but unless you're happy using the operating system, which I know a lot of people aren't, but there are a lot of people who are, then that's largely irrelevant, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Point number 4 that they made, and the last point.
The old laptop folding into a tablet point.
Right. So I have had one laptop that folded into a tablet, which was my HP Spectre, which was a bit of a... Well, it was a beautiful laptop, actually. It was fantastic.
It was a lovely looking thing. And wasn't it really what started this whole channel off? Or your channel, anyway?
It was, because I sent it to the repair centre and they butchered it.
Coloured in the screws.
Yeah, they ran out of black screws, so they just Sharpied them. It was brilliant. It was quite something.
On a £2,000 HP Spectre laptop. Brilliant.
It was just ridiculous. But anyway, I did have it. I did use the tent mode. I can remember using that for watching movies. And I do remember using the tablet mode with the pen, because it had a pen included as well, which wasn't very good. So I didn't do it very often because I didn't like the feel of having the keyboard on my lap, even though it disconnected it just felt wrong.
And they feel a little bit flimsy, I think, as well. Even though they're engineered to do it, they feel flimsy.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like the experience, and they are very versatile. So for that fact, I think it's worth bringing it up. For me, the one that I really loved from the Windows stable was Surface Pro. Yeah,
Surface Pro was very good.
Good. I was actually thinking about that this morning, and in fact, I'm going to do a video where I'm talking about Surface Pro. But what a brilliant machine that was! We had the 3 and the 4.
Yeah, we did.
And we had docks on our desk, so you could use this thing. You had the magnetic keyboard and the kickstand at the back, so you could get all sorts of positions with the display, which was great. You could just pull the keyboard off and reattach it, and the keyboard was good and had a little touchpad, and it was backlit. And the pen was really good that came with it, as I recall.
Yeah, it was.
And also then you could just pull that keyboard off and it was an actual tablet, similar to your iPad Pro in size. And Windows went into tablet mode, and that worked really well. And then when you get to work, we would put that in the dock and attach it to a screen, and we had a separate keyboard and mouse, and they were just brilliant.
Yeah, they were.
Pete's actually going shopping
Well, I
He's
just
now looking at the Surface Pro 8.
they were good. They were good, and I think this is a really important thing because I know there's some people watching or listening to this. They're literally steaming. They are Apple fanboys. We really aren't. We just go with what we need, and yeah, I might get a Surface Pro just to prove the point.
If Apple made a Surface Pro, would you buy one?
Oh, if it was better than the Surface Pro, yeah, possibly. I mean, it was with all the ecosystem, like you said, the dock, the magnetic keyboard. I even like the way that they on the 4 they engineered the glass to give a resistance that made it feel like paper, that you were writing on paper. It was brilliant.
They were superb machines. I can't remember why we changed. I don't think they were massively powerful. I think that might have been the reason.
Yeah, they chugged on certain things.
But that was probably because we bought the cheap spec ones.
Yeah, that sounds
In all
like it. They were
likelihood.
very cheap.
Mm.
So I guess there is a point there.
Yeah, so I actually thought out of all of these, it's only the gaming thing that I think Intel misfired on. I think, although touchscreen is completely irrelevant for me personally, I think it is relevant to a lot of people.
And we do have the luxury of, because of the business we're in, we have the iPad, we have the desktop, we have the laptop, because we can. For a lot of people, they are making a decision for one. They've got to have one device, not necessarily just for themselves either. It could be for the whole family. So we're not belittling the fact that if you're in that position, you may have to make compromises, whereas I suppose we have the luxury of not having to make so many compromises.
Yeah. So some valid points, badly presented, and part of that bad presentation was that these Apple fans were just not credible. They look like actors because their acting skills were quite good, and they all appear to have never even heard of a PC or seen one.
Yeah, if they were true Apple fans, then they picked a very selective group of people who, not every Apple fan is a tech fan, I'll grant you that, but people who choose Apple tend to choose for a reason, and yeah, it just didn't strike me as someone who they're Apple fans by default, if they were indeed. I mean, the ad itself says real people paid for their time. Well, that's an actor as far as I'm concerned. Actors are real people, and they do indeed get paid for their time.
They do,
unlike us on this podcast.
Well, no, we do get paid. It's just in such small quantities that I think we're up to £10 now, Pete.
Really? Don't say that, because Tim Cook will be after it for his pension fund. You got it in.
I just want to say something about the performance thing, which is what Intel completely glossed over. And I want people to understand as well that I don't have an agenda here. When I did my original video on the Intel Evo versus Apple M1 thing, I was actually quite complimentary about the 11th gen chip, to the point where I went and bought a laptop with one in. In fact, I bought 3. And they are absolutely fantastic chips. Are they as fast as the M1? No, they're not. It's not as fast as the M1. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad CPU. And I just want to cover this off because I think it's important. The people who will crow about the M1's performance and all of its benchmark figures and other things are not using their laptop in most cases to do anything that requires that level of performance. What they're doing is real-world web browsing, sending emails to people, watching YouTubes, and doing various other things. Unless you're doing something very specifically creative that requires a lot of performance, like, for example, video editing, then are you ever going to use that full amount of performance of the M1?
Probably not.
No. You won't even use the full amount of performance of the 1165 G7 or, whatever 11th gen Intel chip you buy. So is it actually that much of a problem? No, it's not. And Intel just needs to focus on the experience, the user experience, rather than trying to fire shots at Apple, because the thing that's going to come back every time is M1 is faster and more power efficient. Yeah.
Invest your money in that rather than these really bad adverts. By the way, for anyone who's wondering why Dave got 3 laptops, the way he does use them is he's got an arrangement up in his office where he's basically got ones like that, and then he's got one on his foot, which obviously you can't see on the video here, but yeah, so he's basically...
It's a skill. It's a skill.
Yeah. It's like those sort of 2 keyboard specials, you know, but you've got the one on your foot as well.
Excuse me. Actually, what I did was I replaced one of my son's MacBook Airs with it. And my other son, Tom, who does our editing here, had a MacBook Pro 15-inch, which was a business acquisition, so I replaced his. So he actually does his editing now on a 13-inch laptop, but it plugs into an eGPU. And there's something you can't do with your M1. And that changes the game completely, because it means that a small laptop like that can suddenly become a really powerful desktop if you have an eGPU. Yeah. So, and that's something that Apple ditched support for with the M1. So, look, there are loads of really good reasons to go and buy a PC, whether you choose one with Intel or AMD in it. Loads of really good reasons. Windows is a good operating system. Windows 11, I like it. Some people don't. You know, it's all a matter of personal choice. There's nothing wrong with any of these computers. They're great computers. The problem is Intel's ham-fisted marketing attempts where they're trying to fire shots at Apple, and their marketing department is writing checks that their product cannot cash.
Well, I think their marketing department used to work for Nokia at this rate, basically.
There's some good comments in the YouTube video. Should we just feature a few of those?
Yeah, go on then.
I like the top one. Imagine walking into an Intel building and then being surprised when the products are Intels and not Apple's. It's so true.
It is, definitely.
Intel, of course, it's all about Intel. Completely forgetting the fact that you'll need NVIDIA or AMD if you want to play those top tier titles at the moment. Anyway, no mention of AMD, but...
Yeah, interestingly, someone did point out that some of the devices featured in this actually come with AMD chips. I don't know how true that is, but...
it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I like this one, quite simple. Envy is the sincerest form of recognition. Adam AG says, I mean, got to give credit where it's due. This was a great social experiment at how to get a bunch of dislikes on YouTube.
Very good. You make a good point, Intel. I'll go and buy a new Ryzen PC now. Thanks a lot.
Actually, in fairness, a lot of these comments are not from Apple fans at all. They're from PC fans who are unhappy at what Intel are doing, because Intel is, you know, it's making a mockery of them as well, isn't it?
It is.
That's the thing. It's harsh. Where are we? I want this to be real, but I can't imagine any true Apple fan admitting they were fooled by this, let alone agreeing to be included in the final video. Well, I think people will agree to be included if they're being paid at the end of the day, and then they'll react however they're told to react and look at whatever camera they're told to look at. Yeah, that's how films are made. You know,
that's acting, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no way they were going to get some actual Apple fans in the room and not know what their reaction was going to be.
Yeah, someone says it's like the focus group behind these ads decided the target audience is comprised predominantly of morons. So, I don't know.
I've got... Sorry, I've just spotted another. Somebody's written, for the last 3 days my stomach was burping badly and was unable to eat. After watching this, I throw up like 1 hour straight, which helped me to clean up my utensil. Now I feel better and I can eat again. I love broken English comments sometimes. That's fantastic.
Oh, I like this one. We should not disrespect Intel. After all, it offers best-in-class room heating methods and techniques with its groundbreaking inefficient chips.
This is a valid point, actually, that we should probably point out as well, is that if you go and buy an Apple M1 laptop, you get all of the performance, whether it's plugged in or not. An Intel laptop needs to be plugged in to get the maximum performance out of it. If you're running on battery, it will be slower. And it will also be spinning up the fans all the time. So, yeah, there we go. Anyway, I think we've got the point across. It's a fail from me from Intel. I think they've got some really valid points there, but they're just, why are you trying to convert Apple fans? Just make a really good product and people will come and buy it. There's a reason why people buy into Apple's products, regardless of all of the negative things that we could say about Apple and its products, and frequently do on the channel.
Yeah, just in case anyone says, fanboys.
Apple shills and all the rest of it. Heard it all before. But there's a good reason for it. And it's not just the product, it's the operating system, it's the ecosystem, it's the experience that you get. And some people like the fact that when their thing breaks, they have to drive to an Apple store and sit at the Genius bar. Some people like that. I don't, but some people do.
My wife dropped her iPhone yesterday, and the back of it shattered. And then I made the mistake of picking it up, at which point it sliced my finger to pieces. So she is now looking forward to going to the Apple store to get that, because it's all covered. So she's going to go in there and
So you bought the plan.
Use the iPhone as a shiv if she doesn't get what she wants, because it will. It's proper sharp at the moment. Like samurai swords, when they're properly sharp, you can just drop a piece of very fine fabric and it will just cut that. That's what that phone's like at the moment.
Excellent.
I have to pick it up with chainmail.
So what you're saying, Pete, is the technology is cutting edge.
Well, based on my finger, bleeding edge.
Tom just died a little over there. In fact, there is an Erin as well in the room.
She loves it.
I can't see her because she's behind a light, which is obscuring your face. So that's
be
good
grateful.
for me.
Behind the light and also has a mask on.
That's a win-win. Excellent.
No one loses.
Pete, it is that time, and we are not doing the dogs mewing again this week.
Puppies.
The puppies. It's time for...
The rumour mill.
I couldn't keep a straight face. Oh my goodness, that was rubbish.
It was terrible. I didn't even make any attempt. I was just randomly hitting keys.
It wasn't even in time. It's like if you gave a monkey a keyboard, that's what would come out of it.
It's not like giving a monkey a keyboard. It is giving a monkey a keyboard. You see this face? Does it look like it cares?
No, it does not. Well, welcome to the rumour mill. And really, there's not been a lot of rumours. I think everyone is just completely deflated by the lack of
Apparently, there's
MacBooks.
some kind of Apple event coming up in the next quarter.
Maybe. I did see one rumour, and that is about the iPhone SE. So this is loved by a lot of people because it offers basically a completely brilliant iPhone experience for less money. So they're talking about now it's going to have 5G. So iPhone SE3 apparently coming spring 2022, according to Apple Insider. And they've got sources from various Chinese companies who are obviously working on it. So same chassis that it has at the moment, which is like the iPhone 8 chassis, but it's going to have 5G and the A15 Bionic in it.
And the C94 in it.
There will probably be a C94.
Yeah.
Probably a Lightning, though, I would say.
Nah, it'll be USB-C.
We'll see.
Ken's going to sort it for me.
Is he?
Definitely.
Do you think, if this is true, do you think it will have the full fat A15 Bionic per your iPhone Pro Max 13? Or will it have the reduced fat A15 Bionic per the iPad Mini?
Yeah, the Mini. I think. You can't do that. Because otherwise people will be going into Apple stores with this and using it as an offensive weapon. You can't do that.
It would work quite well as an offensive weapon because it's very large and heavy.
It is, yeah.
You could do some damage with that.
I need a belt on when I'm wearing that because it just drags my trousers down.
For some reason as well, it looks bigger than mine, even though mine is exactly the same size.
Does it?
I don't know what it is. I think it's the camera lenses, or maybe the case. Yeah, your case is a little bit thicker than mine.
Yeah. It's because mine is a 13.
It's better.
It's better. Yeah.
Well, it does have that amazing cinematic mode, which apparently all professionals are using. And
I've been using it all the time.
We did speak about this, and there is something I just wanted to add to that little conversation that we had about that, because I didn't realise, but you can only do it on in 1080p 30 frames per second.
Oh, really? You also need to have loads of light to do it as well.
And also it looks rubbish. And if you want to see an example of this, it's have a look at DP Review's YouTube channel, because they did it. It's the same as the portrait mode, isn't it? You get the fuzziness around the hair.
You do. Yeah, so I'm turning it on now. And I might even give this to Tom and we can put it in the podcast. What do you think? But yeah, it's, I mean, obviously I've got lots of light here, but this kind of goes back to my point, is that you've got to have the light right and you've got to have the right set.
Anyway, I think we should just forget about that, because that's nothing to do with the rumour mill.
No, although I would say, I don't know if you noticed the little credit at the end of the Breaking the Spell Intel ad that it was shot on iPhone. It wasn't.
No.
But that would be quite funny.
No. So what do we think about our 5G iPhone SE 3? I'm going green on that as well.
Definitely.
I think it's over. Yeah, it's due. It's due, so it's a reasonable expectation. Have you got a rumour this week, Pete?
I have. Apparently, Mac, despite removing the touch bar, are working on a 2 touchscreen MacBook Pro.
Are they, though?
No, I just made that up. But isn't that how most rumours start?
You heard it here first.
You did.
And probably only here and nowhere else.
If you hear it anywhere else, it means someone is watching this podcast other than you.
Actually, we do know that people at Apple occasionally watch our podcast, so they might be listening. They might be thinking, what we need to do is make that device.
I don't think they will be.
No?
Someone who no. I'm not even going to go there.
No, don't. I think, actually, a 2 touchscreen device, I mean, well, that's a foldable tablet, isn't it? That's what we're talking about.
It worked for Star Trek. Yeah, the Enterprise D, that's the Enterprise from the next generation, with, Patrick Stewart and all that. Dave's looking very, very blank here. That had multiple touchscreens everywhere.
Is that the one that Obi-Wan Solo used?
There's going to be a lot of people going to be upset by what you just said. Subscribers, any thumbs down are on your head now.
Look, I'm not really interested in it, and Captain Hans Kirk, Obi-Wan Spock, man, can it's not for me. It's not for me.
But it is for me.
So
anyway.
Well, there's a podcast.
It is a podcast.
44 minutes, according to my audio recorder.
Let's be merciful and stop it there for everyone that's listened.
It probably won't be 44 minutes for them, and they'll be wondering what we chopped out now. But I suspect there was a whole load of rambling at the beginning whilst we got our act together.
Yeah, probably.
So next week, there should be an Apple event.
Yeah, there should be.
And therefore, if there's an Apple event, we won't do a podcast. We'll do a live show on the main channel, youtube.com/constantgeekery, which will start after the event has finished. And we'll interact with you guys. We'll do a giveaway. We'll have some
do
fun.
Some stuff, and we'll see who's right. Dave with his M1X predictions, or me with my M2 predictions.
I can't remember what your predictions were, Pete. They were so good that I just wiped them out of my brain.
Who are you?
Exactly. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.